once a week, maybe.
Really? That's a lot.
I change it often, and it's small stuff. Like I'm not like completely scrapping it. Like it's really robust now. So like there's a lot of stuff in it, but I'll try a different reverb, and if I like it, I'll throw it in the template, or I'll try it, or I'll just constantly try to make changes with it and try to refine, because it's really easy to just kind of get stuck in the ways that you do things, and
totally.
You don't improve if you're not exploring that.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I guess everybody's templates are doing different things. I guess like my template is more of like buses and how it's all routed, and
sure.
I mean, obviously I have some stuff on my stereo bus as well that are, but yeah. It's interesting.
Yeah, my template is pretty heavy-handed at this point. Like it's
wow.
I'll have like for instance, if I'm going to my bass, I have like 3 different tracks that I can use as options of my bass bus, and one of them is really, really simple, which is just like an EQ and a compressor and maybe like something given a little saturation or something like that. And then I'll have 2 other oones that are like really heavy-handed and are heavy-handed in totally different ways. Like one of them that's like totally over compressed and with sub harmonic generators and shit like that. And I'll have another one that's maybe a more retro, like heavy-handed but a retro kind of sound, where it's not as sub. It's kind of like what they did in Motown, where they're kind of voicing the bass an octave up from the fundamental frequency of it.
Okay.
They were like filtering off a bunch of like 80 hertz and stuff like that, or 100 hertz, and that's so it's the second harmonics that are really bringing all the tone to the bass. But that's a really heavy-handed thing to do, and I'll have it just built into that thing, so I can really quickly just go through these 3 different kind of like bass presets that I've built for myself, and choose one and go with it, and then tweak it from there. But it's definitely not like a.
It gives you like an insight of what this type of like treatment will do.
Exactly, what this type of treatment, and it's not like it's certainly not a blank slate that I'm starting out with. You know what I mean? It's like choices that I have to make, but there's right. Certainly some choices involved right off the bat that I'm making.
Yeah, I think what's great about templates that people that are anti-templates are saying like it doesn't let you be like creative and doesn't let you do. It doesn't let you like make every song unique, but the truth is like everything is tweakable and everything will be tweaked. It just gives you like a ballpark to start with. Yeah,
it's the people who truly inspired me with templates. Ironically enough, is someone who doesn't mix in Pro Tools, which is Chris Lord-Alge. Like I love a lot of his mixing, and I love his kind of philosophy with stuff.
He's like the OG, right?
He is the OG. Say what you want about his personality and his videos, but he is a very talented dude, and totally. And he's working on a template in every sense. The way that we work with templates, he's got a template in that he just happens to have enough 1176s and gear that he can have one parked on every channel that he needs, and he turns and all the settings are already set to like what they would be set in your template, and he pretty much just starts and he sticks that insert in and sees if it's helping, and if it's not, he takes it out. But like it's exactly, he's probably has a more structured template than most template mixers do, in that I'm pretty sure that Blue Stripe 1176 has lived on his vocal bus for the last 20 years, and and that's he's not changing that template anytime soon.
Right.
But yeah, it's
I mean, he's also the definition of somebody that has a trademark sound, and that's why people are going to him. You know
absolutely.
What I mean? Like, like that is you go to Chris Lord-Alge because you want Chris Lord-Alge's sound, and like he's the number one example of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the world.
Yeah, but I don't think anyone is faulting him for having a sound. I don't think anyone is like all of his mixes like his mixes all sound like him, but they're not like, it doesn't sound like he's not giving every song attention in
right.
what it needs.
I have no doubt about that. Wait, so you quickly mentioned, you glossed over the fact that one of your bass tones is like a Motown bass. And obviously I mentioned how I found you through that Reverb video. So how did they find you? How did that happen? How did that go about?
Interestingly enough, I've known those guys for a long time. All the crew over there. I record. So the owner of Reverb is the same person who started Chicago Music Exchange in Chicago,
Right.
which is like a huge music store in Chicago, and it's a bunch of the same people involved in those two stores. They're really interconnected, and I recorded, I would say, probably 15 bands that are made up of, all the staff there are all, well-trained musicians and stuff. So I've recorded a ton of bands that are part of the staff there. So I just knew them all really well. And I actually approached them initially about doing a video series for, called Experimental Recording Techniques, which was, to be honest, it was, I thought it'd be really interesting to do, but it was also somewhat of like a marketing thing.
Obviously, Reverb.com.
That's what they're doing.
Clearly, it's like a corporation, so they're trying to it's still a very cool video.
Yeah,
it still holds up on its own.
But that's what I was interested in doing, was just marketing, not necessarily because I was hurting for business, but because I wanted it to be really clear the things that inspire me creatively, and for people to seek me out. Like, we've all been in the situations where you're making a record and you are clearly not the right person to be making this record, and it's such an incredibly painful experience. Just making a record where you're not, you and the artist are not inspired by the same things is a really difficult situation to be in. So I figured if I put videos out there of me making drums sound like, basically sounding like insane shit, and being excited by that, which I am, to really fuck up drums and make them sound like no drums you've ever heard. That's exciting to me. And if people are seeing that online and that's part of my presence, then people are going to be seeking me out who are interested in making records with fucked up drum sounds and making records that don't sound like every record they've ever heard.
That's
so
awesome,
that was
dude.
the intention. So, and then they approached me, like the Motown. I did that one series with them, which I approached them about, and then everything that we've done since then, they've approached me like with an idea. I'm kind of just in their roster of engineers that are capable of making their ideas happen, which the Motown thing was 100% their doing and their idea.
That's awesome, man. Any good takeaways from that video or any of the other ones?
Yeah. Oh my God. I learned so much in every single one of those. I feel like they feel like recording school to me. Like, I feel like I'm back in like this bubble where my only job is just to like do an exercise effectively. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not trying to make a record. I'm just trying to like see if I can make drums sound exactly like this one record and try to crack what microphones they were using and what processing they were doing. And it's so incredibly illuminating for me because it there's only so much reading. I've done so much reading on all of that stuff. Like, I love all those old records, and I've done so much reading on them and Beatles records and Stax records and all these old techniques just to learn what was making those records sound the way that they were. And at the end of the day, there's nothing that will really show you that stuff without trying it yourself. And there's all these things that I wouldn't have thought about that it was clear to me that they were doing. Like, for instance, on the drums, I was learning that they must have been like calibrating their tape machine in a certain way because it just or biasing their tape machine in a certain way because I couldn't get my drums to crunch up in the way that their drums were crunching up without going and just messing around with the biasing on my tape machine in ways that my tape machine is set to like a pretty standard calibration and pretty standard biasing, and it was like completely screwed up at the end of that session. So there's things like that. There's stuff like just knowing what tools they were using at the time and trying to guess what. So like, for instance, like in the case of the drums, like I don't remember exactly what it was, but I think that I was using almost exclusively Pultec EQs on that project, and I was filtering off with the Pultec filters. I was filtering off like everything below 100 and everything above 10K, I think, on the drums, and which is like pretty aggressive. Like, it's way more aggressive than I would have expected to be.
Yeah,
but
especially for drums, right? Like,
especially for drums, where like you're expecting to get. But I was just listening to the record, and I was listening to my thing, and I was just like, shit, they don't have anything above like, or at least like, if I'm setting my filter to 10K, whatever the curve is working out is sounding pretty much like what they're doing. So they must have been doing something similar to that. And it's not in any articles that I can find about it, but it's what I needed to do to make it sound that way. And it was very obvious to me listening to the two recordings that was a difference between them. You know, if I hadn't been filtering that off, I would just have a ton more. So I've started doing that on some records. There's some records that if they're looking for a vintage sound, I'm filtering stuff off in ways that I never would have before.
Wow, dude. I mean, I'm like obviously a huge Motown fan as well, so
Sure.
it's just fun to it's fun
isn't?
to like get into that stuff. Totally. My other question is like, how the heck did you get hooked up with all the Wolfpack guys?
So that's a really easy question because Woody Goss is we grew up together. And he grew up in Skokie. Yeah, we went to high school together. We played in the we were in the band for the vocal jazz ensemble. We were the rhythm section for that together. So we were really lucky enough in that we got to play music together, you know, many times a week all through our childhood, all through high school. And that's, you know, just kind of like that. That's I think for both of us, that's shaped so much of like our musical understanding. And we kind of split, like he went to Michigan, met all those guys and started playing with them. And I went to DePaul and just kind of was making a lot of records in Chicago. And then he moved back to Chicago maybe 3 or 4 years ago. And we just kind of have been musical partners since. Yeah, we've been
awesome.
Producing a bunch of records together. We just we have a record with this woman May Earlwine coming out. That's just killing. Just one of the most ridiculous records I've ever been a part of. It's so incredibly good, and it was recorded to an 8-track Otari tape machine, 1/2-inch tape machine. So we recorded the whole thing to 8 tracks live, and all the vocals on the record are live, and it's just ripping. It's really, really great.
That is so fun.
So yeah,
I was just listening before we got on the call to the latest track that Woody put out.
Yeah,
and was it Fat Boys in the Gym of Love?
Fat Boys in the Gym of Love.
Super dope track.
Oh,
Sounds
thanks,
awesome,
man. Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah, that's Woody Goss and Jeremy Daly. That's their band together, and that's a record that's oh my God, this is embarrassing that I don't even know if it's come out yet. I think it just came out. But
I have the YouTube loaded up, so it says it's final pre-order ends March 18th. That already happened. So I don't know.
So I think it might have just gotten released digitally. I think the vinyl's not out yet, but it just got released digitally. And there's also and we've also got another record that we're mixing right now for them. That's like almost done as well. We got one.
That's amazing, dude. So you are just like crushing, like just constantly working.
We're making a lot of records, man. We're really really lucky. And we've got like, especially with Woody and the records that we've been doing with him. We have a house band. We've kind of got like a wrecking crew that we've kind of put together in the last couple of years. That is, they're just killing players. Packy Lundholm is one of them. I don't know if you know him at all, but he's a really great producer as well, and just like one of the most talented multi-instrumentalists you'll ever meet. Just equally frustratingly good on drums and bass and guitar and keys and everything.
Makes you want to quit.
It definitely makes you want to quit. But yeah, him, Ben Joseph, Andrew Vogt, we got this whole crew together, and then we also bring in a bunch of like we just did a record with Christine Huckel, who she's in Wolfpack, and Joe Dart is on that record, and Theo Katzman played drums on part of that record, and there's just like just a bunch of cool artists that are kind of in our orbit.
They came in to record, or did they send things remotely?
For that record, Joe sent his parts remotely. He only played on one tune, but he sent his stuff remotely, and Theo came in came in to record, but actually Theo came in to record, but I think that the song that he recorded is going to be on the next record. So yeah, he did some background vocals and stuff like that. So yeah, it's been all over the place, but we're kind of bringing all of